So let's take a short detour into SVG images. Just a couple of slides and then a little demo exercise, which is easy to do. Some basics, just to remind you, you should have read about these already back in the images chapter. Scalable vector graphics. Unlike bitmap files, almost everything we've used for images so far, actually everything we've used for images so far are bitmap types. Bitmap images are made up of, almost like they're made up of stuff, almost like it's material that can only be used to a certain width or something. They're actually pixels, right? JPEGs, PNGs, GIFs. SVGs are not made up of pixels. They are made up of shapes and paths. They're made up of instructions, essentially. They're made up of the math that says how to draw them. They are illustration-like images written in text. So think logos. In other words, this is not for photographs, right? This is not for photographs. This is for logos, graphics, things that have big blocks of single colors. Photographs do not. But because they are written as text, they can be resized without loss of quality, which is an amazing thing. And if you suddenly start to think about responsive web design and how we make things flex different sizes, all of a sudden SVGs start to look really good. They require less data or file size than bitmap images. So no matter how big you use them, the size of them doesn't change, and they're probably pretty small to begin with, smaller than JPEGs for sure. Because they're text that integrate well with HTML. You can style them with CSS. You can actually apply CSS to them in a more fundamental way than just sizing or something. SVGs can be animated. I've never done that, but you can apparently. And you can add interactivity to them with JavaScript, which is a little beyond me too, but maybe some of you guys are learning that already, especially some of you are more on the computer science end of things. So they're relatively recent. I mean, not exactly recent. There's been vector graphics around for a long time, but it's only in the last few years, which I know is a lot of time on the web, that we see a lot of SVGs ending up on web pages. Here's an example of the code for one. This is how it'd be written. And you see it's written in essentially HTML, right? SVG, and we say, this essentially says, use this version of SVG. So it's sort of like a doc statement. And it says, draw a rectangle to this width, fill it with purple, and some more instructions about what text goes in there, what font, and so on. And then what is the word? The word appears afterwards, and we close the text. The text is opened and closed. Text opens here, closes here, and SVG closes. So it's really HTML-like tags. Open SVG, close SVG, open text, close text, and then that's more of a single instruction in between. And what does this do? This does that. Okay, so that text results in this. The rounded edges are the 20s, the purple, the rectangle, the text inside, and then the font and how it was styled. How do we use SVGs? There are a number of ways, more than 3 I believe now, to embed or link SVGs. You can read about them in your text. There's advantages and disadvantages to each of them. The 2 simplest ways to embed are with a regular IMG element, where the SVG code has been saved as a separate file, or simply paste the code directly into HTML. So you can kind of treat them like an image, put them in a separate file, and then link it with an IMG SRC. We'll do that, or you can just simply paste that whole code right into the HTML. So how do you make them? How do you make an SVG? Well, you could, and especially for a simple one, if you know how they work, you could write the code by hand. You just start typing, and type an image like that. But unless it's a very simple one, you're probably not going to do that. You're probably going to use some kind of a drawing program that saves things as a vector, has vector options. Vector drawing tools. You may have heard of Illustrator and maybe even know how to use it. Illustrator is the Adobe product that is used for all kinds of complex illustrations for print, and could be used for the web. But the thing is, the SVGs it makes are not very good. Not very good for the web. They are bloated and don't work well for the web, and they're not that well optimized. So generally, Illustrator is not used. There's a lot of free tools, free or low-cost tools out there for making SVGs. A very common one is Inkscape, which you can go find and download yourself and play with. There's actually probably newer ones now. This is how a lot of web images are made now. So you probably need to pick one of those tools if you're going to make your own and learn how to work it. There's an awful lot more to learn about SVGs. It's a growing area, especially when you get into animation and interactivity and so on. There is more than a chapter of new highly technical content here about SVGs in your book. You can also learn in the W3 schools, and this is a growing area. This SVG stuff is growing stuff. Maybe if some of you want to make your own SVGs, maybe some complex ones even, maybe use something like Inkscape to make them. Maybe you could do your own extra credit with SVGs if you like. Give it a try. Let me know if you want to try it, and I'd be open to have you do that, but I don't have a particular assignment for that. So let's go ahead and do an SVG exercise, and the exercise looks like this. Okay, so I've given you something to download to use. I've given you a zip file. And when you download, you're going to be, oh, that's not it. Where are we? Here we are. It's in a folder down at the bottom called SVG. SVG zip. As usual, you do a right click, save it where you want to. It's going to go down onto the drive. And when you look into it, it's going to look like, here's my SVG here. You would do a, remember, you can double click on it and extract it, or you can do a right click as I do and open with Windows Explorer. Similar things be done on other operating systems. And then I would go get the thing, copy it, and then you have to go outside of zip to use it and then paste it. I've already done this, so I already have one. But the idea is that you don't work inside the zip. You get the stuff out of the zip and then work in it. Why did I make you a zip? Well, because I had a number of files to give you, and I wanted to make this easier so you don't have to make folders and so on. So here is the, I have pasted my zip folder in here, and this is what it looks like when you go inside of it. You'll see you have 1, 2, 3 files, a PNG, an SVG, and an HTML. And then inside here you have icons, and there's a bunch of icons there. And let's go ahead and edit this document in Notepad++, which I think I'm already doing, and yes I am. And here it is, and when I run it, this is what it looks like right now. One of these things we keep using and reusing over and over again. That's okay. Well, first of all, I wanted to show you, this image, which is here right now, is not an SVG. This is the same old image we used way back near the beginning of the semester. So what happens, just to show you, if we do something that we shouldn't do, let's take that IMG, and we're going to change the width to make it really big. Let's make it big. So we're inside the IMG. Let's go ahead and say width equals quotation marks, and let's make it 800 or something really big, and save it and run it. It's there, but look how fuzzy it's gotten. And the problem is, and this is what the point is, that regular bitmap images, when you make them bigger than they're supposed to be, get fuzzy. Okay, good. So let's go ahead and edit. We're going to edit the Black Goose SVG in Notepad++. What do I mean? Here I am. I'm in my SVG. I'm in my blackgoose.svg. Okay. What was on that page was the PNG. Now we're going to go into here. Now, SVGs can be edited with Notepad++ or any other code writer. And this is what the SVG looks like. Oh my gosh, look at all those numbers. That's how you draw that goose. Okay. I'm just going to take it all. I'm just going to do Control-A and copy it all. And what I can do is I can go into here, and in place, I'm going to select this, the IMG, and I'm going to replace it with all that stuff. So it's in the same place as the IMG was. It'll behave the same way. And I'm going to run it. Oops. Let's change my magnification. It's still really, why is it still, oh. Do I not have my, hold on just a second. I'm sorry, I had someone messaging me and then I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. And the point was that um, I kind of like jumped ahead really. When you don't give an SVG width, it's going to take up the full width. And that's what that one did. So we should probably start by giving it width, which is what the instructions say too. Width equals quotation marks. We can just use regular attributes. This is just HTML. And we can do height also. Now the width and height of that original PNG were 200. Now, here's the thing. In the instructions in your textbook, she says you should add the units here, which I don't know, because I guess you could size SVGs in other ways. But normally in width and height of images, we don't, but this is an SVG, so it's different, I guess. So we will use the units here. And what happens? It's not so dramatically, enormously large. And I screwed something up, obviously. Hold on. That would help if I actually was putting the width and height in the correct file, which I was not. I was putting in the actual raw SVG, which it worked there. Uh, 200 and 200. And we're going to use the units this time. Because I guess SVGs need them according to your text. So we'll say that. Let's go ahead and run it. Okay, and that's our normal SVG, just as normally it would work, right? That's the normal size of it too. That looks fine. So it looks identical to the SVG, to the PNG. What's the deal? Well, the deal is, of course, if we make this one, instead of 200 by 200, if we make it, 900 by 900 and save it and run it, it's enormous and it's completely sharp and crisp. It doesn't mind being resized. Everything's perfect. Okay, so that's one way, one of several ways you could add a SVG to your document, just by pasting in the actual code. The other way, which we will do here, is imagine we're going to have social media links. And in fact, you may want to consider adding social media links to all your pages in your resume. And in fact, if you Google free social media links, you'll get lots of them out there you could use. And some of them may be in SVG format. So we're down here at the footer area, right? So we're going to put some images inside the footer. So we have a paragraph here all ready to work. Here it is. And here I want to add some of those little icons. So we're going to add them as IMGs. IMG SRC equals quotation marks. And we should have alt text to be official. I'm going to copy that thing. Copy that thing and paste it again. All right. So we're going to put in 3 of them. We can put in any number of them. We'll do icons, which is where they are, / Twitter.svg. This is a subfolder, so we need that path. And of course, this is going to say just Twitter or Twitter icon or something for the alt text. And then we'll do one for icon / Facebook.svg. This is just the name of the files that's sitting in that folder. And Facebook. And why not Instagram? Sure. All right, so that will stick them there. But they're going to be like huge, right? So we're going to have to do some work with them. And let's do that work in CSS this time. I won't be sizing them right here. Let's do some work in CSS. Go back up to the CSS, and here we are. I'm going to use footer IMG, and you can see how that's going to get to it. But the footer area, maybe we want to do some other things to it also. So we're going to style in CSS, and we're going to style the footer too. Sure. Let's give the footer a border, and we'll give it text align, and we're going to give it padding top. Let's do border top 1px solid, and here's a hashtag you can use, 57B1DC, and let's select a border top on the footer area, text align center, which is a bit of a cheat, and then padding top 1EM. Okay, and let's, in this footer IMG, let's do something else. Let's give each one a width of 40px. And some margin, top nothing, and 5EM either side to push them away from each other a little bit. And save and run this. That's still really big, but here's what we're looking at for sure here, right? There's a little Twitter, a little FB, a little Instagram. They are centered. They have a little space between them from that margin. They're nice and small because we made them only 40 pixels big. If we didn't put those dimensions on there, they would be enormous. Now, why are they centered? Well, it's a bit of a cheat. I used text align to center them. I also centered the text at the same time, and it actually picked up, the images picked up that also, which is something you can sometimes get away with. However, you know how you could center things by using a flexbox, so that would be another option for those two. And of course, I didn't make them links yet, but of course you could make them links. Just put an href around them with the proper place, and you could click on them and go there. One last thing I'm going to say is, let's look at this giant thing here. And frankly, let's make it not so giant because it's a bit, well, okay, I'll leave it big. I'll leave it big for now. One of the neat thing you can look at and learn with SVGs is you can go in and try to hack them a little bit, change them a little bit. What if this circle fill wasn't this color, whatever this is? What if I made it purple? You can, if you spell it right, you can, go in and edit and change some things, especially like colors, and make this stroke red, and see what happens. And you can see what different parts are doing. You can start to change the numbers and play with them and change them around too. Now I got purple on the outside and red on the inside of that. So you can edit the image by editing the text in the SVG to make some changes and also learn how it works. Okay, well, whether you leave this big or small, change it back to be small or whatever is up to you. Whether you leave it purple and red or change that too is up to you. But I do want you to save up this file and rezip it. Now this root folder, you probably should change it to be named SVG in your name. Rezip it and go ahead and put it in the Dropbox.